Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner and Press. Thank you very much for taking a little bit of your time and spending it here with us on NAC TV. I'm Owen Devereaux, news reporter with the Banner and Press, welcoming you to the show this week. Joined this week by Casper Werhan, journalist with the Banner and Press. Casper, good to have you here this week.
Good to be here as always, and looking forward to getting through this week's paper.
Some interesting things we got to share with you on this week's edition of this Story Behind the Stories. And as always, front page is the best place to start. And we've got some wonderful news that we're able to share with you that was coming out of Winnipeg last weekend. University Athletics, we're going to share with you. The U Sports National Track and Field Championships were hosted in Winnipeg. And we have several individuals from Neepawa who are really excelling in terms of their chosen sports, and you can find that on the front page. Neepawa now can proudly say that we are the home to national champions in terms of Dax Turner and Laura Denbo, who both won gold in their individual track and field events at the University Games. Dax Turner, of course, if you've been a loyal and consistent reader of the Banner and Press or watched the Story Behind the Stories, we've talked about Dax on several occasions and his accomplishments in the triple jump. And if not, maybe you've heard about Laura and what we've talked about with her. She has done some remarkable things as a high jumper, first with NACI here at the high school in Neepawa, and going on, both of them, to the University of Manitoba, continuing their aspirations, their studies, and their athletics in terms of being part of the University of Manitoba's track and field team. Both of them represented Manitoba and Neepawa extremely well. Dax was able to hit a gold medal winning jump in the triple jump of 15.82 feet. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the whole concept of the triple jump, I'm not going to get up and I'm not going to demonstrate it for you. First off, there's not enough room in here, and I wouldn't be able to hit it, most likely. But you go running in, fast pace, and then you literally, legitimately do a triple jump. Right, left, or left, right, left, as it were, and then jump as far as you can. To be able to do that and to hit a 15.83 mark like that is just remarkable. It's a personal best, I believe, for Dax, and I believe it set the University of Manitoba's record as well in terms of the longest triple jump by an athlete for the U of M Bison. So extreme congratulations to Dax on that accomplishment. Interestingly enough, we had another local Neepawa athlete on that same team on that same day, and within 15 minutes of one another, be able to hit a gold medal as well, to be able to be crowned a national champion as well, and that is Laura Denbo. Laura has been part of the high jump there. She does that, and she hit one of 1.78 meters in her final attempt in the competition in order to hit gold. And when I say that, it's like I said, it's national. It is the best track and field athletes from a university level from all over Canada. They had so many different universities there, so many different participants. You have to really realize the significance of hitting this level. This is next level sort of competitive capabilities that these two individuals have been able to hit. If that weren't enough, we also have a little bit of a congratulations for a third representative from the community of Neepawa, Ben Parrott. We've talked about Ben as well. They were actually, Dax, Laura, and Ben were all members of the track and field team for NACI. Ben is actually a member of the University of New Brunswick's 4x800, I believe, relay team. Now, they were able to win bronze in their competition at the national championship. So again, congratulations to Ben as well. It's not just sort of putting the acclaim and the spotlight on Dax or Laura on this. It's great to see Ben as well sort of accomplishing so many things, especially when it's so much further away over in New Brunswick there. So we were so happy to be able to share these details with you. We had a few people inform us about what was going on over the weekend. We were able to reach out to a representative with the University of Manitoba. Have to give a thanks to Michael Still, who is part of Bison Sports. He was able to send us and to give us the ability to use his pictures on the front page. And there's an amazing picture of one of the triple jumps of Dax there, just sort of hitting the mark there. It's really just sort of, it's unbelievable. So very appreciative to Michael for allowing us to be able to use those pictures, because, small town paper, we're not going to be able to do a quick drive out to Winnipeg to cover a news story. We don't got that type of budget. So,
Yep.
But again, congratulations most definitely to all three of them.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, phenomenal photos, and I don't know, like for me, just being as someone on the sidelines watching their stories progress, even just through the short time that I've worked at the paper and reading your stories about them as they've come up, it feels like a very nice culmination of their efforts in the sports field. For them to be able to go out there and do this on a national level and then take that spot home with them as well. I mean, they got the golds there, they got the bronzes, and they should be very, very proud of themselves. I mean, even if they didn't get those top spots, to get to that level and to perform as well as they have is incredible.
Most likely, yes. It's great, and to be able to share their stories through the years. That's the importance of having a local community paper like this, because if you're a loyal and consistent reader of the Banner and Press, you've followed their journeys, the journeys of Dax Shepard, Ben Parrott, Laura Denbo, and in other sports such as Hayden Delaloy for golf, Briley Wood for hockey, individuals who have some type of connection here, and we love to be able to share those stories, and we're able to do that on a constant and consistent basis because you share those stories with us. As a small town paper, we try and get everything we can, but there's only so many hours in the day, and there's only so many people that are working those hours. So whenever you contact us with, hey, did you hear about this? Or hey, you should check in on that, it is greatly appreciated. Even if it is 2 or 3 different people sort of contacting us all about the same thing, we would rather have 2 or 3 people contacting us about this thing as opposed to nobody contacting us at all. They share with us, we share with you. And we're very proud to be able to share this story with you. You can find it, of course, on page 1 of this week's edition of the Banner and Press, dated for the March 15th edition of the paper, volume 128, number 33. God, the years have just flown right by. It feels like only yesterday it was 120. And now it's 128.
It really does just keep going and going and going. And it's like, where has it gone?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, now all of a sudden my back hurts. That description did not help. But again, that's what we're talking about here. And those are some very impressive numbers. Speaking of numbers, we're going to move on. We're going to shift gears a little bit to some important financials that maybe you need to keep an eye out for in Neepawa, or if you're in Rolling River School Division. First off, let's talk about the town of Neepawa's budget. They're in process right now, budget deliberations for 2024. We don't know those numbers just yet, but we will in a very future edition, very soon, a future edition of the Banner and Press. But we got some good news from last year's budget, 2023. At their most recent council meeting, perhaps you watched it. It is broadcast here on NAC TV. Always remember to check your local listings to find out when it's going to be on there. It's intriguing sometimes. I know it's not always the most interesting thing on this station, but trust me, the stuff they're talking about is really important. So, if I got to sit through it, maybe you got to sit through it too. But if you don't want to sit through it, definitely pick up a copy of the paper because I'll break it down for you relatively in bite-sized pieces, much like this story. 2023 budget, Neepawa was able to post a surplus, and the reason for that was some pleasantly unexpected provincial supports that came out to create some extra end-of-year cash. In terms of the budget, the Chief Administrative Officer, Colleen Shishin, informed Council on the 5th that they had a surplus of $1.164 million for 2023. Now, just to break that down, when you set up your budget for groceries, you know, you're getting all your eggs, you're getting your bread, you're getting all that stuff. Imagine after you've bought all the stuff you need to, you have $1.16 million left over. Maybe
You can buy so many more groceries.
You'll be able to buy another loaf of bread and an 18 of eggs.
Oh, yes.
Now we're living. That's big time.
Oh, yep.
Now, the reason they were able to get that, though, is because of some unexpected supports from the province. They got some stuff through the... I'm just going to give you the technicals here just very quickly. An item called the Rural Strategic Infrastructure Funding Plan. Essentially, that was put in place during the whole COVID situation to help communities sort of shore up some projects to make sure that those types of necessary upgrades for a community were not left by the wayside due to the unfortunate stresses and circumstances the COVID-19 pandemic sort of brought about. As well, there were some supports brought in from lease rent applicable to the province's share of the new RCMP building. Now, I don't know exactly what that means. It sounds like they're paying rent and then they paid a little extra. I don't know. But whatever it is, it's more money coming our way. The good thing is, in the grand scheme of things, though, you take away all this money that wasn't expected to come through for the town of Neepawa this year, their budget was still a surplus of $16,683. Now, obviously, that doesn't sound as good or as impressive as $1.16 million, but still, to see a community growing such as Neepawa go through the entire year, the ups and downs, peaks and valleys, the uncertainty that we all go through, and to still be able to come through having the budget sort of, you don't want to be in the red, you want to be in the black. And to be in the black like that is a step forward. And they can use that money towards other things in the upcoming budget. Who knows what? God willing, I hope it's roads.
Yeah.
But again, that's just my opinion. That's not the opinion of NACTV or the Neepawa Banner and Press. I'm just thinking aloud, you know, potholes, whatnot, you know.
I mean, well, yeah, no, especially after, the weather that we've had, and we're not even in spring officially yet. It's getting pretty rough out there, so hopefully we get some good touch-ups there on the roads. But yeah, it's great to see Neepawa, even as it's still continuing to grow at the rate that it is able to be in the positive like that on its budget, and to keep that money moving forward towards other stuff in future years as well.
And again, that money goes back into the kitty, as it were. So for future budgets, it is going to be able to sort of be looked after and perhaps help alleviate some of the tax burden that the average ratepayer, the actual property owner in Neepawa, has to deal with each and every year. But we'll see. Yeah, that's why you got to keep tuning in to NACTV. You got to keep picking up a copy of the Banner and Press to be informed on these types of things as they happen. All right, let's shift over to some slightly different numbers we're going to talk about, Casper. In terms of Rolling River School Division, you've got a slight update on some of their budget deliberations, don't you?
I do, yes. And this was kind of interesting to do just purely for the fact that I've never done a budget story before.
Aren't they fun?
They're something. I'm not really a numbers person, and I'm not really a budget person either. I just don't have the head for it. So looking at all of this, I was like, what does this mean? They got graphs on here and like pie charts and
no
things as functions. I'm like, huh?
Oh no, you never make direct eye contact with the pie charts. That'll get you every time.
That's how you lose your marbles.
Having gone through about 20 years of pie charts over the years for school divisions and cities and towns, that's how they get you. It just turns into a blur after that.
Oh yes, yeah. Oh yes. But no, they had a good breakdown there for the Rolling River School Division's proposed budget. Won't go through all the numbers, of course, because, well, that's a lot. But also, we want you to read the paper for yourself. get read up on this information. But and I didn't actually have it in the story, unfortunately, but they did happen to run a bit of a deficit last year. I think it was like 300,000 or something. Don't quote me on that though. I'm going off the top of my head here, and it's been a while since I looked at that information. So be sure to take a look at that in full on the school division's website as well, especially if you want to get a full picture or fuller picture of the details that I do have in the paper here. But the essential thing that it comes down to more or less is that for taxpayers, the mill rate is going to go up. It's going to be, well, proposed to be 10.5, which is up a little bit from 10.1 from 2024 year. So we'll be paying a bit more, just depending what the value is of your property there and how that applies to you, whether you're homeowner, farm owner, business person, etc. And then, yeah, I have a breakdown there of what expenses are seeing increases, what sort of increase they're seeing, and all of that on page 7.
That's right. If you want to find a few more specific details on that, the breakdown, as Casper said, on page 7, along with update from Neepawa and Area 4-Hers, moving on to regionals. Those are some interesting little human interest stories and information we always appreciate getting sent to us as well. So wonderful to be able to share those details with you on the page, as it were. Let's shift back over a little more forward into the paper again. Right next to that surplus story we had for the town of Neepawa, I have a story in regards to the Rotary Club and their annual book sale. Things behind the scenes are very much on the go right now as they prepare for that. That's going to be happening in early April. This year, much like last year, it was over at the former Chalet building over on Main Street there in Neepawa. Big space where they'll be able to do this. And they're feeling pretty optimistic about this year's. They'd hope to have in and around 7,000 books that they're going to be able to be out there for people to browse and to peruse through. Gently used books. But in order to do that, they do need some supports from Neepawa and the surrounding community. They do have volunteers, members of the Rotary Club, that go out and about this time of year asking for and picking up donated books. So if you have anything of those sorts, I had a chance to speak with Murray Newton from the Rotary Club about that, and he laid out on page 2 some of the process, some of the process that you can do to donate and to help out with that. They're always appreciative of when the community sort of sees the value in what they do and helps them out in this manner. So if there's books you don't read anymore or don't have an interest in anymore, or if there's new books you'd like to pick up and you'd like to sort of check it out, always remember the Rotary sale is every spring. This year's going to be April 8th to 12th. Now you can find out the more specific details on page 2 of this week's edition of the newspaper. Always, if you can, pick up a physical copy of the Banner and Press in and around surrounding communities in Neepawa and the surrounding area, all the way even into Brandon as well. So we always do appreciate those supports for that. If you're not able to pick up a physical copy of the Banner and Press, always remember every Friday at around 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, our newspaper will go live on mywestman.ca. You can click on the website, click on the PDF, and view it much like you would a regular newspaper, just in electronic form. You can see all the stories, you can see all the adverts. We're very thankful to the sponsors who keep us going and buy advertising on a consistent basis. So you can find that online. You can find that online on mywestman.ca. And for the most part, only on mywestman.ca. I didn't put this on the to-do list here, Casper. Well, let's talk about this. Let's get this out of the way right now.
I was just thinking with that spiel you were going on there that maybe this would be a good time to talk about it.
Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you want to frame this, we have been able, up until recently, able to put our feature, our newspaper, and pictures and information onto Facebook. That's something not every single media in Canada has been able to do. It was about 7 or 8 months ago that it was announced that Meta, the operators of Facebook, I still call it Facebook. I'm not going to call it Meta.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, technically it is still called Facebook, but
Yeah. Yeah. It's all a thing, you know. Twitter is still Twitter as well, but on Facebook, they have been taking Canadian media and they have been blocking them essentially. If you have Facebook and you live in Canada, if you wanted to click on the Winnipeg Free Press, for example, it'd come up as a blank screen. If you wanted to click on CBC, it would come up a blank screen. Even if you wanted to click on, I'll use smaller examples, such as the Minnedosa Tribune, Crossroads Today, other newspapers within our region, you would have come up blank. But for some inexplicable reason, for the last 7 or 8 months, Nipawin Banner Press flew under the radar. So we were still able to update that. Originally, I thought it was a case of, hey, we're too small, that's why they didn't get us. But there were other papers, as I said, such as the Tribune or Crossroads or the Herald and Dauphin that got hit and were blanked from day one. So we didn't really bother. We didn't, okay, all right, thank you. But it was last Friday when we tried to update our newspaper online that they finally got us. So again, it's to be understandable. Facebook and the government in Canada are having a little back and forth on that right now, and neither one of them wants to be the grown-up in the room. But, and again, it's media, Canadian media, that is falling the victim of it. But let me throw over to you, Casper. What's your take on all of that?
Well, it's definitely an interesting situation. I mean, I am kind of curious how the Banner and Press was able to go for so long after the new policy coming into effect, just like keeping as it was until this point, before finally just like, there you are, got you. But I don't know, it's a unique situation. I mean, I've never had a very fond spot for, you know, getting things from online, just depending what it is. I mean, people in general typically think that if it's online, lots of people see it, but that's not really how online works.
Yeah,
and I've gone on that spiel before.
Oh, it's in a lot of ways it's useless. It's completely and utterly useless. You get 3 comments and 2 likes, and you think you got mass coverage.
Yeah. And I mean, for us at least, most of our online presence didn't even come from Facebook, but there was the odd person that did go there to our Facebook page for, you know, each week, just getting the paper from there, or, you know, a couple little spot things here and there throughout the year. If there was something really big that came up, they'd maybe see it on Facebook first, or if there was
breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news, or if there was something little that we wanted to share or say or something that wasn't necessarily also going to go on our website, then they'd maybe see it there. But for the most part, everybody reads our content in the paper, and then the next biggest portion does come from our own website, which I think is a good sign.
Yeah.
But then in terms of like this in general, it's a little conflicting. Like, I can, in terms of the Canadian government and wanting the bill put in place so that media can get compensation, I can see where they're coming from for that, but also, I also have this other side of like, the media are choosing to go onto the website to post their content there.
Yeah.
They've made an agreement that, yeah, Facebook can host our content because they need to be able to host the content so that we can post it.
Yeah.
So you're asking for compensation for something that you've agreed to allow Facebook to host.
Exactly.
So that you can post your stuff. So it's kind of a
cutting off your nose to spite your face type of situation.
Yeah. So kind of interesting there. Like, yeah, I do get the point a little bit, but at the same time, I'm very much doesn't really make sense in my mind. But yeah, in all, with how it's sort of turned out, I do think it is a detriment to Canadian citizens that do go online to find news.
Well, again, I think you make some valid points there on regard to that and the new way that people track down news. Unfortunately, the large contingent of news you find on Facebook isn't news. It's hearsay and innuendo and bullshit stuff.
Caught it last
and
second.
innuendo and so on and so forth. And people will read that and think that it's real. And then the media, I hate the term mainstream media. It's disingenuous and it's incorrect. Mainstream media, at its definition, is media that gets out to the broadest contingents of people. So technically right now, Facebook is mainstream media. I look at it as this way. Don't hate mainstream media. Hate corporate media. That's the enemy. That's the true enemy. That's the enemy that's closing down local radio stations. That's the enemy that's closing down local newspapers. That's the enemy that is closing down television stations in communities like Saskatoon, like Brandon 15 years ago. That one still rubs me the wrong way. The fact that a city like Brandon no longer has a television station because essentially accountants decided it wasn't worth it. Now I'm getting on a whole different tangent there. Now you're this is a story behind the story behind the story type thing. But again, it's one of those things of both sides have value, both sides have flaws in their argument. So it is what it is. The most interesting thing about this from our perspective, though, is that we still have to do the actual work of uploading the pictures and the stories and all that, because if you live in the United States, if you live in Ireland, Scotland, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, anywhere else around the world, you can still see our content. And looking at the algorithms, because we can see the algorithms of locations, not specific locations. You know, it's not like we can see 3rd Street in Birmingham, but we can see where some of our outreach is coming from. And we do have about 50, 60, 70 on a regular basis people from outside Canada who check things out on Facebook. So we do appreciate that, and we will continue to sort of support them. But it's a real... it's a very contentious and complex conversation, and nobody seems to be willing to sit down and have that conversation. So
yeah, it's a real, for lack of better metaphor, I guess, it's a real stick in the mud of a situation here that we have going on in terms of that. And people, they do want to have those reliable, trustworthy news sources, and depending how, if this sort of thing does expand in the future, that could potentially make it harder for people to find that. So hopefully you don't see it go that way. And I mean, hey, regardless of what happens, we're going to keep doing what we're doing and get people the news that they're looking for.
That's right. And again, God willing, I've said this in the office a few times, I wish we had just stopped with technology upgrades around 2008 or so. Because phones were fine the way they were, the internet was fine the way it was, social media was still social in terms of face-to-face back then. I think if we'd just stopped at 2008, it'd all be peaches. But we didn't, so that's the reality. So anyway, we've gone on about that long enough. We only got about a minute or so left. There was so much more we could have talked about. We had information on Neepawa hosting the mixed curling provincials this weekend. We'll have more coverage on that in the future edition. The Neepawa Titans battle for the playoffs. We'll have further information on that in a future edition as well. And of course, the Everything for Your Farm segment, which we have in this week's paper, spotlighting some of the important agricultural businesses from in and around our area. But that's why you need to pick up a copy of the Banner and Press. Or if you have any story suggestions for us, always remember to give us a call over at 476-3401. Once again, that's 476-3401. Or send us an email at news@neepawabanner.com. Again, for Casper, I'm Owen, and as usual, we always do appreciate you taking a little time and spending it with us right here on NAC TV and the story behind the stories. Have a great week.